children, welcome to your grade 1 science class. And the lesson that we are going to learn today is lesson number 5, water, water everywhere. You all know what a water is, and you all have seen water, you drink water every day. Today we are going to learn something really interesting. We are going to understand from where we get this water. So there are new words we are going to come across during this lesson. So let's read the new words. My dear children, since this is the recorded session, you can pause your video anytime, write down the new words in your notebook and then resume back to the video. Let's read what the new words are. The first one is rain, second is rainwater, river, pond, lake, well, stream, waterfall, water bodies, seas, ocean, tap, pipeline, and natural resources. Okay? And there are two most important points you're going to learn in this lesson. The first one is to understand and learn the different sources of water. Sources of water means the different ways and places from where we get our water. And the second point we're going to learn today is learn the types of water sources. Now, my dear children, there are two types of water sources. One is natural and the second is man-made. So we're going to learn about both. We're going to learn what is a natural resource and what is a man-made source. Okay? So let's get to the lesson and learn something really interesting and exciting. We drink water every day. Don't you take a glass of water and drink it every day? You use this water also for bathing. The water that you use for bathing in the washrooms, you get it from the tap. But have you ever thought, from where does this water, this beautiful source, this water, from where does it come? Let's read the remembering section and understand from where we get this water. All living things need water to live. All living things that we read about in the previous lesson, the difference between living things and non-living things, right? So we also learned that all living things need water to drink and food to eat. So this water is very important. We get water from different sources, but the main source of water is rain. In rainy season, the clouds pour down rain from the sky. So the main source of water that we get is from rain. This is an important sentence, so I shall underline it. Okay? The main source of water is rain. The water that we get from the rain is called as rainwater. Okay? The water that we get from the rain is called as rainwater. Okay? So, the most important source of water is rain, and the water that we get from rain is called as rainwater. Now let's learn something more about this. Okay? In the next page. Rainwater, my dear children, it goes to rivers. Okay, big flowing rivers. You might have seen it in your village or places that you go to visit. You see big water bodies, places where there is lots of water. So this rainwater goes to rivers, it goes to small ponds, big lakes, wells, streams and waterfalls. Now the rainwater, to which all places does it go? It goes to rivers, it goes to pond, well, lake, stream and waterfall. Okay? I shall underline this and I want all of you to do the same in your books. So these are called as water bodies. The places where these rainwater goes, it is called as water bodies. Okay, what is it called? Water bodies. You can see over here the figure, the image of a river. Then we have pond, lakes, well from where you draw out the water. It's a huge, like a big hole that is dug in the ground, and this is a well wherein you can take buckets and buckets of water. You can pour out the water outside. Then you have streams, small outlets of water that go. That is called as a stream. And then water falling from a great height from a hill or a mountain. That is called as a waterfall. So all these places from where we get the rainwater or where the rainwater goes is called as water bodies. Okay. Now we're going to learn something more about these different water bodies that we can see. My dear children, some water bodies are seas and ocean. You can see, have you ever been to a beachside place where there is so much of water you can't even see where the water ends? That is called as a sea or the ocean. The sea we have closer to India is called as an Arabian Sea. The ocean that we have at the border of our India is called as the Indian Ocean. Our country is surrounded by so many beautiful water bodies, of which there are some seas and oceans. Now, dear children, these seas and oceans are very huge and they contain a lot of water. Okay, so these are also part of water bodies. Something interesting we're going to learn is how these water bodies are important for living things and how we get them. So trees, all the trees that you see in the surrounding, they get water from rain. Who gives them water? When it rains, all the trees get water from it. Have you seen people going and pouring buckets of water at the trees? No. Whenever it rains, the tree gets lots and lots of water which goes in the ground, and trees use this water that they get from the rain to grow. Okay? Animals, all the animals around us, they get water from rivers, ponds, lakes, streams and waterfalls. From where do the animals get? Wherever there is a small lake, a pond or a small stream flowing with water, all the animals get their water from these places. They quench their thirst, they drink this water from these places, these sources of water, okay, from these particular water bodies. Now, we human beings, you as well as I, from where do we get our water? We get our water from wells, rivers, lakes, ponds and waterfalls. Now we also get waters from all of these different water bodies. We get from wells, we get from rivers, we get from lake, small pond and large waterfall. Okay, so we get water from all these places. Now from those places, how does it come to our home? How does it come to our place? Do you go and bring buckets of water from all of these places? No. We get this water through tap that are there in your kitchen, that is there in your washroom, right? You open the tap and you get lots and lots of water to use for your daily needs. So what happens from all these places where there is a lot of rainwater collected, we have different pipes. So the water comes from that pipe and it comes inside your house, and as you open the tap, you get the water. Okay, so water from these different sources, they come through the taps and the pipeline which is there in your house. Okay, so we don't have to go and bring water from these places. There are a lot of pipelines that are there from below the house that you cannot see. Okay, it is coming from under the ground. There are small and big pipes which carry lots and lots of water. So this water comes to your house, and then when you open the tap, you get lots and lots of water from these sources. Okay. So how do we get the water? All living beings get water from all of these water bodies. All the beautiful trees that are there in the surrounding, they get water from the rain. All the animals, they get water from rivers, ponds. Then we have small lakes, streams and waterfalls. Okay, very good. And we get water from the same places: wells, rivers, lakes, pond and waterfall. But we get this inside our house through pipelines or tap. Okay, we get these water from these water sources through the tap and the pipeline. All right, let's go ahead and learn something more interesting. Let's try to understand now what are the two different sources of water. The water are of two types, my dear children. One is a natural source and the other is called as a man-made or an artificial source. Okay, I am going to mark it for you. The first one is a natural source of water and the second is a man-made or an artificial source of water. Now let us understand the difference between a natural source and a man-made or artificial source. If you see this figure, under sources of water, we have two types. The first is a natural source and the second is a man-made or an artificial source. So all the natural sources are mentioned down below. They include rain, river, pond, lake, then we have ocean, seas. Okay, spring is like a small source of water, and then we have the waterfall. So all these places from where we get water is called natural sources, because all these places, all these water bodies, we get the main water from the rainwater. When it rains, all these places are filled with water, and all these water bodies then give us our water to our homes, and they provide water to all living beings. So this is called as a natural resource because it comes from rain. Now let us learn what is a man-made or an artificial source. So my dear children, a man-made or an artificial source are examples in which we ourselves have made a source of water. For example, we make wells, we dig the ground, we make a huge hole from where we take the water that is there under the ground. Okay, so to do that, we put in a lot of effort. We don't have to make a river. We neither have to bring the rain. We don't go and fill buckets of water to make an ocean. We don't have to do any of that. But if there are times when we have to bring water or take water from the ground, what do? A man, what does he do? He makes an artificial source. He makes an artificial source by creating a big hole in the ground. Okay, so when you create a big hole in the ground, you either make a well, which is the first option mentioned over here. You either make a bore well or a tube well. These are man-made. These all are man-made because we dig the ground, we make a huge hole to get water. Okay, to get water, what do? We dig holes in the ground and then we take out the water that is there under the ground. So that is called as a man-made or an artificial source. Whereas all the sources that are automatically filled by the nature and the rainwater are called as natural sources. Okay, now we are going to see a figure and we are going to learn where are the water bodies getting their water from. Okay, we shall go forward and understand where are they getting their water from. So if you see this figure very closely, My dear children, as you can see, this is a sea and an ocean. Okay, so what happens? The first thing that happens, it is rain. When it rains, there is stream. You can see there's a small stream that is flowing. This is fresh water. Then in mountains, big huge mountains, on top there is a lot of ice. Even when this ice melt, ice is also a form of water, right? So when the ice melt, all the melting of the ice and snow is the big waterfall that happens, and it goes as a river to the sea and ocean. Can you see this red color arrow marks leading it to you? So first what happens? First it rains, and then small sources of stream, sources of water, they go and they get collected, and this is called as fresh water. Then the next thing what happens? When all the ice and the snow that is on top of the mountain melts, they form huge waterfalls, which again all this water forms a river, and this river goes and meets the sea. And the river, when joins and meets the sea, there is a big water body, right? A huge water body that we can see. So the seas and oceans are formed through the river, through the water that is there in the river, which goes and meets the sea and the ocean. Now, what is groundwater? So when the seas and oceans, small seas and oceans that are there, they have their sources under the ground also. Okay, so when it rains, even the rainwater is collected inside the ground, and some water from the sea and ocean is also collected in the ground. The water that is inside the ground is called as groundwater. So what is a man-made or an artificial source? We humans, we create a hole, we dig a hole to take this groundwater out. So for that, we either make a well, we either make a tube well or a bore well. So all these three different man-made sources are there or are made to collect the groundwater that is there. So this groundwater is also because of the rainwater and some water that is collected from the sea and the ocean. All right, it's a very fun chapter. I hope you all understand how do we collect this beautiful source of water and how the source of water comes to our home so that we all can drink it and live our lives. Okay? With this, I want all of you that you must drink water every day because water is very important to be healthy and wise. Now, we're going to learn about how these rainwater goes into the rivers and streams. So my dear children, some of the rainwater that goes into the rivers and streams, they also goes to the sea and ocean. So as I discussed, this rainwater that collects on the ground, they form the lake and ponds. But some water goes below the ground, which is called as a groundwater. And they sometimes form water springs. So you can see the image over here. This is a small water spring which is formed because of the groundwater. Now to get the water that is stored under the ground, what do humans do? They make an artificial source in the form of wells, bore well or a tube well. You can see the image over here. This is an image of a well. Then we have a bore well or a tube well. So this is artificially made to collect the groundwater that is there below the ground. Okay, so when it rains, the rainwater goes into the river, they go to the stream, they also goes to the sea and ocean. The water in the river goes to the sea and the ocean. Some rainwater is collected on the ground, over the ground, which forms small lakes and ponds. But there is some water, extra water that is stored below the ground, which is called as the groundwater. The extra water that comes out from the groundwater is called as the water springs. And to collect the water that is there under the ground, below the soil, it is called as groundwater. To collect that particular water, we make an artificial source, we make holes, we dig wells, and we dig bore wells and tube wells to collect the groundwater that is stored under the ground. this was all about water and the two sources of water. Which are the two sources of water? One is natural source and the other is an artificial source or a man-made source. Okay. Now, based on what we have learned, we are going to solve some questions that are there in the workbook.